The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Don't you think it's fair also to ask him, I know your stance on this, how come we don't have a health record? We don't have a college record. We don't have a birth certificate. Why, Mr. Obama, did you spend millions of dollars in courts all over this country to defend against having to present a birth certificate? It's one thing to say, you've seen it, goodbye. But why go to court and send lawyers to defend against having to show it? Don't you think we deserve to know more about this man?
I would love to know more, but what I know is troubling enough. And one thing that I do know is his having grown up in Kenya. His view of the Brits, for example, very different than the average American. When he gave the bust back to
Winston
the Brits,
Churchill,
the bust of Winston Churchill, a great insult to the British. But then if you think about it, his perspective as growing up in Kenya with a Kenyan father and grandfather, their view of the Mau Mau Revolution in Kenya is very different than ours because he probably grew up hearing that the British were a bunch of imperialists who persecuted his grandfather.
He despises the West. He despises the Brits, and I think he could take it all out on Israel, and that's why he despises Israel. He's not too thrilled with our history either. But let me just try to get an answer from you. Would you say to him, or at least ask him in a debate, why did you go to court and spend millions of dollars on lawyers to prevent from having to show your birth certificate? If you have one and it's there, why not show it?
The only reason I'm not as confident that there's something about the birth certificate, Steve, is because I know the Clintons know, and believe me, they had lots of investigators out on him, and I'm convinced if there was anything that they could have found on that, they would have found it, and I promise they would have used it.
Let me just give you one as we end here. The Clintons there was probably a lot on the Clintons that the Obamas could have said, yeah, you do that, we'll come back with this. Don't think for a minute. You're from Arkansas. You know that better than me. Now, having said that, when are you going to decide to run or not?
Probably sometime late spring, early summer. That's kind of my timetable. And one of the things I'm gauging is how people respond to the message of this book.
All right.
These are ideas, and if they say, gosh, this guy makes sense, that may help me.
Well, the book is A Simple Government. We didn't have time to get to everything in it, but you could tell from the fascinating conversation and the fascinating nature of the man that the book will be equally as fascinating. Governor, I hope you'll come back, sir.
I look forward to it, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Governor Mike Huckabee, ladies and gentlemen.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.